So I have horrid timing apparently because I just did the top five like a month or so ago, and then this lad pops out of nowhere, and so that's horrid timing on my behalf. But it's actually a good thing because this is one of the probably one of the best people I've ever found. The most knowledgeable and the vast amount of different kinds of things he knows how to make, especially when it comes to scales and keys. Now, he tends to focus on forest ocarinas. I've not yet seen him do an actual forest flute, but really, if you close your eyes, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. They sound exactly the same. It's the only difference is that an actual ocarina is flat and solid at the bottom, and a flute will have an opening at the bottom of it. But that's the only difference. They play the same way. They sound pretty much the same. So anyway, um, I'll talk more about that in a bit. But it's actually quite good timing because there's a lad that in my old list of top five flute makers, there was one that you wouldn't be able to purchase from unless you lived in Russia currently because of the war. And the good news is that that was the Greybeard one. So the good news is that Touch of Sound, which is this new shop, actually reminds me a lot of Greybeard. So even though you cannot purchase from Greybeard currently, and it may be an infinite, I don't know how long, unless you live in Russia, you won't be able to. But Touch of Sound is still shipping worldwide, and I looked up the odds of that changing, and there's slight odds that would change, but I don't think even if it did, it wouldn't be anytime soon. And I just feel like that the country that Touch of Sound is based in, which is Belarus, I just don't think that that country even wants to. That's against what they, if they did that, they'd be forced hand by Russia because they don't really want to do. So I don't think you have any problems really with actually getting something from there, because I don't see any time in the near future where that would be cut off. So yes, that he ships internationally everywhere, which is great. So what I've really seen him focus on, like I said, is the forest ocarinas. And what I mean by forest is I mean like a fallen branch, so made out of a raw branch. Sometimes you can see the kinks and the knobs, and even sometimes they leave part of the bark on, and it looks like a real branch. Okay, so I've only seen him do those, but really that's the traditional way to do it anyway. So actually I prefer that. Now, as far as the different keys and scales that I've seen him do, I've seen him do quite a lot. He likes to focus on indigenous or perhaps Norse. So there's a sort of diatonic-like, but it's more so a minor diatonic type Norse scale, or it's minor pentatonic. That's most of what I've seen him do. He has a ton of different pentatonic scales. There's Native American, there's Asiatic, there's Arabic, and there's that what I just call pagan, but it's like it's the Eastern Hemisphere but north, and it's not as east as say Asia, so it's more west than that. It's like Europe and above, okay, give or take, Europe and above. He's done some of those true pagan, ancient pagan scales, and the one that I purchased, I'm actually going to be doing a sound sample on. It's in one of those pagan, northeastern hemisphere pagan scales, for lack of a better terminology. That's why I just call it pagan. But anyway, so I've been looking for that forever. I don't know which scale it is, and depending on which scale it is, I may have to play it before I get it, because the sound sample didn't tell me for sure. It's slightly different variants of that, and so but I'm just glad I found any, because any northeastern truly indigenous scale, you could go your entire life and not find it. I didn't think I'd ever find it. flute that's made to play that on purpose. Now I've got some flutes that if you do a whole bunch of half steps, that they will play that. Like say they're set in a minor Native American, but they'll play that with half steps, or they're set in a Arabic, but they'll play it with half steps. But it wasn't designed to do it like for pagan music. It was designed for something else. And this is designed specifically for pagan music. If that wasn't enough for you, despite being how new he is, he is quite green. He appears to be quite young, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's fresh off from just finishing up apprenticeships. He may still be apprenticing. I don't know. But despite being so green with all of that, he's got nearly endless knowledge when it comes to making these forest flutes. He's got a real gift for it. He's got a lot of knowledge in that. More than most, I'd say. What he does is he tries to focus on indigenous cultures and from around the world. And that is his focus. He does things through what we call being guided. Now, if you don't know what that means, and you're just getting into this kind of stuff, you can look it up, but I'll just tell you in general. Give you an example. I used to make protection hoods the old-fashioned way, where they cut triangularly and sewn back, and the neck and head wraps around, and that's the hood, okay? So everyone remembers how to do headdresses, no one really remembered how to do the hood. So I'd make hoods for people, and I would do it through being guided. And what would happen is, I'd be guided to do things very specific ways. So specific that I was like, okay, this definitely is calling out to some individual somewhere. I don't know who it is, but it's definitely meant for some individual, you know, specifically for calling out one person. So you don't really always know who it is until they get it. And you don't always know why you're being guided to do it, but you just do it. And, you know, it's that act of basically the universe, or what Native Americans would call spirit, flowing through you. Guides, totems, telling you what to do. You not necessarily have to be fully hollow. Fully hollow means they literally are like puppeting you, they're like influencing you. But at least being guided, okay? And I tell you, with mine, I didn't sit there and say, hey, could you do this for me? I just was guided to, this is one of those creepy moments where you're like, wow. I was guided to look online, and I was rolling my eyes going, nothing's going to be there, there's nothing. Within seconds I see this flute. I was very surprised to see it came from Touch of Sound. I did technically know of his existence, I just didn't know that because he makes so few at a time, every time I didn't look at it in the past, it was very common things, like common Native American or Asiatic. Had no idea that Touch of Sound, just a tiny wee little shop, that's where it would come from. So I was very humbled about that. And then I started listening to the sound sample, and I was like, okay, guides, you were right, I was wrong. This is something I've been looking for like 6+ years. So it was that one moment too, and even the deeper meaning on the thing that he carved on the front has a very deep meaning, straight from my guides. Like, it's too accurate for him not to have done that. I mean he would have had to have been guided. So I know by that he has been trained to do that, which means that if he's not pagan, he's practicing some sort of native indigenous belief. And for a lot of people, that means a lot. And so that's why I'm adding it. For some people, it doesn't mean fuck. But for a lot of people, it means a lot. That someone would do that through being guided. That says a lot about their intent. Because even if they're normally, you know, maybe not the purest of individuals, whether they like it or not, if they're doing it through being guided, they really have no choice but to do what the universe has been asked of them. See what I'm saying? I know, but let's just get back to Touch of Sound for a minute. Okay, so I've looked at the energy, I've sensed the energy, and I don't see anything of malice, which is something you've got to be really careful of, because some people say that they're pagans, say that they do things, and you can just tell that it's flat out sinister. Some people even attach hexes to things. It's horrible. They give us a bad name, and I don't see that with him at all. I don't see it with him at all. I'll be completely frank though, he's a newbie, he makes mistakes, and one of his biggest mistakes is that, you know, when you do things through being guided, you're not supposed to add your own energy into what you craft. And sometimes he accidentally, his own energy kind of gets transferred into what he's crafting. But that's a really common newbie mistake, and I've actually looked at some of the stuff he did first and what he's done a year later, and I swear it's getting a little bit better in that. He's still got that issue, but I think it's getting a bit better. I also listened to the science samples, and I could tell by him playing, this lad is definitely he's definitely got a lot of chakra issues, imbalances, but you could see that when he actually plays, he starts to shift, and he's not just guided anymore, he's completely hollow at that point. So like I said, this is someone fairly green that's just learned some stuff, but when it comes to flutes, he knows 1,000 times more than I do. I only know what they're supposed to sound like and a little bit of how to play them, and he knows how to make every single one of it. So, you know, it's don't underestimate this lad. He's green, he's new, but he's got a lot of talent. There's nothing truly sinister in anything I've seen him do. By the way, you can look on his YouTube page, which is also Touch of Sound, and I'll have, you know, his Etsy shop or something somewhere here or somewhere. You can look at that and see all the things that he's either sold in the past or is currently up for sale at. For what I understand, he never takes them down. In about a year, give or take, he's only made about 30 flutes. So he doesn't make too much at a time. So that's the only bad thing about it. Have seen him do one commission, so he, depending on how much time he has, he may or may not accept commissions. You just have to ask. But anyway, you can see all the different things that he's made in the past, and the sound samples will give you an idea. Okay, that's what that sounds like. This is what this sounds like, you know, and help you if especially if you're new to it, decide which one that you need, which type of flute that you need. So that's a very good tool to just look at all the different things that he has crafted on his YouTube channel. So without further ado, I'm going to do that sound sample for you from the flute and it is a drone. It's not all of the ones that he does is the drone. The drone is just what mine happens to be. He's got several different styles and things. I just got it in the mail, and before I play it, I just want to point out that it's just a knob right there. He didn't you know, that's not something he did the rest of this, but he didn't do that. And so I think what he did is he actually honored that knob and made it the moon. I mean, you don't know for sure, right? But it sure does look like it's on purpose. What do you think? I'm calling it a moon. If it is not on accident, it's still a moon. There is one thing that you have to do half step for, but you do use both the notes. So it's not like you're trying to correct a note. It's just that he has combined two notes into that one middle note right there. Normally I absolutely hate drones because they're too overwhelming, but this one actually is more of like a growling, meditative, I can't even explain. It's taking me a bit of getting used to though, so I'm teaching myself as I'm showing you this.